Oh, it's 7:03. Welcome, welcome. Let's see if we are live. Yes, yes, yes. Okay, we're live. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Black Women Leaders Global Network, Careers, Passion, Purpose. I'm so happy that you are here with me today. You know, this is our weekly Thursday Live. Welcome, whether you're joining us now or later. Remember that, Candy, now or later's. What was your favorite flavor of now or later's? And do any of you have a bunch of cavities like me left over because of that? Back to your regularly scheduled program. So anyway, welcome to Black Women Leaders Global Network, Careers, Passion, Purpose. Tonight's Thursday Live is called, excuse me, how to redefine your self-talk, 3 ways to empower yourself. So if you're taking notes, please jot that down. How to redefine your self-talk, 3 ways to empower yourself. Now, I apologize because this week I did not at least give like 2 days notice, so I don't know who and when you'll actually see this. I just put it out there like an hour and a half ago. But nevertheless, I think it's going to be solid content, so I hope many of you will later on tune in. Let me have oops, no, no, I don't want, no. No, I don't. Okay, that was a mistake. Okay, I was trying to do something that didn't work. Let me do it this way. Oh my goodness. I just clicked on myself. Okay, just want to tag folk in case people want to come. Okay, now we're normal. All right, so I want you to think about self-talk when we're talking about how to redefine your self-talk, 3 ways to empowering yourself. Think about the self-talk that Black women have received over the not self-talk, the talking about and the being on the receiving end of the types of talking over these centuries. Let's just say centuries. I know we're not centuries old, obviously, but we know the history of, Black women. And so we think about even, let's go right up to today, what the data says about Black women in the workplace, Black women leaders, not only lack of representation, so you don't see yourself, but even lack of support at jobs. They normally, the data set shows that Black women are not offered the same type of support for advancement. In fact, there was a report that came out from like 1960 something to the year 2020 something, that if Black women had been working in the jobs they were qualified for, it would have, pushed billions into the economy. So we've been on the receiving end of a lot, and that's not where we're going to stay. But I want us to at least start off in this area to understand we can't be on the receiving end of all of that and like never feel anything. So what happens as a result? Sometimes we begin to believe what it is that we see. I'll say that again, that sometimes we start to believe what it is that we are seeing. And thank you for those of you who've tuned in, whether you stay or go. I hope you stay, but I understand that many of you are passing through. So do we believe what it is that we see? And as much as we'll say we're strong Black women and, no, we know we're strong, but what does your action and your self-talk tell you about what you truly think about you? Are you saying things? Here's some of the self-talk that we may hear ourselves saying. I want you to tune in really carefully here. And if you hear something that you've said or along the lines of something that you said, you may say, well, I'm no good at math. I lose weight and I always gain it. I just can't take it anymore. I never get a break. If you know any of those, if any of those sound familiar to you, then jot what it is. And even something that seems as simple as, oh, I always get a cold this time of year. So think about you see what you believe, your behavior may be saying, maybe I'm not good enough to earn that high six-figure income. So you don't even ask for it when you come to a job that's going to be demanding of you. Maybe you're already thinking, you kind of talk yourself out of it. Any of you, and I want you to type the word negotiation, have any of you just been on the receiving end of what they told you were going to get as a salary, and you simply said, okay, because you've had enough self-talk, or you've started believing what it is that you see, that you weren't worth it, you weren't worth negotiating for, you weren't worthy enough to receive that. So I want you to remember that a lot of times it's our self-talk, but the self-talk is connected to our actions, our patterns, our behaviors, and our overall life. What have you been talking yourself out of? I say, I didn't even introduce myself. My name is Coach Vuyanzi, or Vuyanzi Rodman. I help Black women leaders to make career transitions with ease. Queen, what have you been talking yourself out of when it comes to your career transition? If any of this is resonating with you, type something in the chat. Let me know that you are there. So today, I'm just going to borrow some ideas from a book. It's very old, and it's actually called What to Say When You Talk to Yourself. Any of you ever heard that? If you've heard that, you can type in me. If you've ever heard of that book, What to Say When You Talk to Yourself by Shad Helmstetter, you can type in me. So, and by the way, I am very grateful for my multi-level marketing days, or my MLM days of Amway, because that's how I was introduced to that book. So let's start first looking at let's go into the first point of 3 ways you can empower yourself. Well, first of all, empower yourself by, first of all, being understanding and educated about, not educated formally, but about the impact of self-talk. Self-talk is precisely why you are where you are. And I know some of you may not like that, but even when I found myself in a terrible situation where there was an apartment that I could not afford. Let's talk real for a minute. An apartment that I could not afford, and I was struggling. But here's the thing, before I had already gotten there, I had already been self-talking. I'd already been saying, oh my gosh, what if I can't afford this? Oh, I can't afford a lot. I can't afford. Do you know how many, like, I had talked and talked and talked, and your environment has no choice but to, because you're commanding it with this self-talk, you're commanding your brain. Your environment has no choice but to yield to your situation. And then all of a sudden, what? I found myself laying on somebody's couch. Even though I was able to get into that apartment, but my thoughts, even before getting it, had been on that I can't afford it. What is your self-talk? Understand the impact of it, the greater impact in your life. How many of you have imposter syndrome? Have you ever felt that feeling like, oh, I don't really belong here? You're in a meeting. You're afraid to be seen. You're afraid to be heard. You don't want anyone to see you or to hear you. So you sit there. You're talking to yourself. That's essentially what you're doing. You don't do it out loud. It's that self-talk. The impact of self-talk, that imposter syndrome. And really, the other piece is, and I want to go into just a little bit more, how your self-talk really dictates your life. I don't think you're hearing me here. Your self-talk is really dictating your current situation. So when you think something like, well, I've been in my profession for a very long time, for many, many years, and I can't switch now. That's that's what it is. That the impact of self-talk, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. Someone type that in the chat. It becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's the impact of it, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. I've been in my business for this long. I can't make a career change. Oh my gosh, I've been an employee. I can't start a new business. Well, if I start a new business, I won't make enough as much as I made in business. The new businesses never make enough. That's your self-talk. And it will remain exactly the way it is. So number one is understand the impact of self-talk. And many of us are saying negative affirmation statements all the time. Many of us are saying negative affirmation statements all the time. See, we've heard of, and we're going to talk about it in a minute, positive affirmation statements, but we're not realizing that when we make a definitive negative statement about our lives, that too has the same impact. So let's go. Point number one was understanding the impact of self-talk, understanding the impact really of negative self-talk. Number two, how do you begin to then apply self-talk in a positive way to your life? How can you change the trajectory from it being a negative self-fulfilling prophecy to a positive self-fulfilling prophecy? So number two is applying self-talk. So I want you to consider all areas of your life that you're questioning and that you want more. Go ahead and jot those down. All areas of your life that you are questioning or that you want more, from your careers to your businesses, to your love life, to your parenting. I want you to think about all these areas. Because I could go on that. So jot those down. And I want you to think about, what is it that you've been saying in your life? What have you been saying to yourself about those areas of your life? And now I want you to think about how can I now reframe those statements that I've applied to my life? So if it's something like, I always gain, I lose weight and gain it back. Okay, well, you've been talking to yourself, and I can guarantee you every time you lose weight, you're going to gain it back, because that is what you're saying. However, I had decided, because weight was a thing for me, that I've said a number of positive affirmation statements, but one of them is, now my body is a fat burning machine. And the other thing is, I stopped, and my friend taught me this. She learned it from Bob Proctor. I stopped talking about losing weight. I stopped talking about losing weight, and I just said I shed weight. Why? Because when you lose something, what happens? You want to find it. So anyway, that's even there. So apply your self-talk. So write down those areas of importance in your life, and I want you to write down what it is that you have been saying, and look and see how your life has been reflecting that. And now I want you to reframe those statements. The way you've been talking to yourself, about your life, start to reframe them to what you do want them to be, and get the focus off what you don't want them to be. That goes to the positive affirmation statements. Some people are confused. Some of you are confused. You think like a positive affirmation is like, rah, rah, sis, boom, bah, I'm the greatest, I'm the greatest. It's not that. You can put LOL in the chat if you think I'm funny. It's not that. It is really speaking life, speaking life to your situation. So think about creating statements that really resonate with your future self situation. Okay, that is applying those statements, and begin to live and walk in that truth. And I want you to think about this, especially when you're applying this in your leadership, whether it's leadership in an organization, whether you're leading your own company. What do you want? Who do you want to be? And how have you been talking to yourself when it comes to that area of your life? So right now, I want to pause for a minute. If you're here, just type in that you're here. If you're hearing something that I just got a haircut today, I got to wash it, but I like my hair. It's a little bit shorter, but we're trying to grow it out. And I got my little, he put a, cause I'm growing this part out. So he put a little Z right here. It's not too deep, but this is the first time I've ever had a design cut in my head like this. Anyway, if you're getting something out of this, I want you to say, I'm getting something out of this. I want you to say, I'm getting something out of this. Say what you're getting. I see that, let's see, the reframing. Melissa, I see you singing with the reframing. What else are you hearing? Because I want to get to point number 3 in just a moment. What else are you hearing? And I didn't get water, and I know this is going to end soon because my throat is dry. What else did you get? Okay. Okay, so let's keep going. Point number 3, empowering, really, when you're empowering yourself is, and Melissa's watching this, and I know she has a group in which they're really doing this, is creating a supportive community. Or if you can't create one, then join one. Create or join a supportive community. So first of all, know your tribe and then vibe with them. Folks, no man is an island. No woman is an island. No human being is an island. Being connected, belonging, these are just very basic humanity things that one needs. So that's number 3, is create or join a supportive environment. You're going to know your tribe, and then I want you to vibe with them. What do I mean by vibe? Engage with your tribe. Don't be an outlier. Engage with them. However that looks like for you, whether it's in person is great, but let's be honest, especially after a few years ago, the pandemic, we really also thrive probably just as much on, well, I do, on a virtual environment, and you can get energy either way. So, if you're saying, oh, I don't get much from virtual things, well, we just talked about negative self-talk. If you're saying, I don't feel the energy in a virtual environment, I don't really connect with people in a virtual environment, well, you won't. That's it. Okay. Give love, receive love. Give love, receive love. That's when we're talking about creating or joining a supportive community. A part of that is not just your receiving, but actually your giving. You're giving, speak. And when I say love, it doesn't have to be, I love you, but think about doing things from your heart that you love for this other community, and then receive that, be on the receiving end of that. And the last I'm going to say is this, and because I'm really, I'd like to eat, my body would like to eat. And I'm feeling my stomach caving in right now. So anyway, is that you should consider, and this doesn't have to be me, but even getting a supportive environment, as in a mentor or a coach, someone who's going to speak life to you. As a Black woman leader, as a Black woman, it's true, but no one's coming to save us. I don't know that people going out of their way to say something nice to me is authentic. Who's our other races? I'm just going to say that. So I don't receive, I don't necessarily get what I need from others. I can't stand here and wait. I have to be active in my support. I have to be active in my support, the community, the vibing with my tribe virtually or in person, getting a mentor, getting a coach, getting people in your life that are going to speak life to you and help you build life and build the confidence to connect with others and build the confidence to think you are worthy enough for good self-talk and help you build the confidence to want to change things and change the trajectory of your life by your self-talk. Folks, when you redefine your self-talk, you will redefine your life. Someone needs to jot that in the notes. When you redefine your self-talk, you redefine your life. My name is Coach Vuyanzi, and I help Black women leaders to make career transitions with ease. If you are ready to redefine your life, go ahead and click on like my name, which is pretty easy because it's right above my head. And then you can DM me and we can talk about that. Okay, folks, I'm going to go. Thank you for those of you who tuned in. You were really quiet tonight, but thank you for those of you, Melise and Nana, who did chime in. If you got something, at least say what you got. Mwah. I love you. I care about you. I want to see you thrive. Coach Fuyanzi, and